Hello, and welcome back to another coffee collaboration with me, Clementine, from Seattle Coffee Gear. We're happy to have you back. Today, upon the suggestion of lots and lots of people, we're going to be making Cuban coffee. This is a really interesting recipe, and once again, only a few ingredients, yet it is complicated, complex, and can produce wildly different results if you change stuff up. So coffee is really popular in Cuba, and with that there's come a lot of interesting traditions or just things that people do. For example, if you happen to have a Cuban cigar, you can dip that puppy in your demitas cup and then light it on fire and have it take a puff, puff and a sip. Good times. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also make this coffee for a group of people if you want to, just by making 4 to 6 shots rather than just one, and setting that up in a tall glass. Traditionally, that'll be called a colada. So Cuban coffee, also called cafecita or cafe cubano. So let's get ourselves going so that we can taste it. All right, what you're going to need. You're going to need a stovetop espresso maker. You're going to need a heat source, and you're going to need a mixing cup as well as your just regular tiny little cup that you sip out of. So let's get ourselves going. Ingredients that you're going to need. We've actually kind of got ourselves prepped. So if you're like us, you immediately have all of your ingredients already set up on the table. In here, we've got about 8 ounces of water. So it's pretty much filled up to the release valve that's on the side of your stovetop espresso maker. Fill your water up to about there. And then you're going to want 4 to 6 tablespoons of sugar, which seems like a lot, and let me tell you right now, it kind of is. But it makes a big difference. If you don't put enough sugar in there, you're not gonna be able to make the paste. If you put the wrong kind of sugar in there, you're also not going to be able to make the paste. So the sugar we're using is turbinado raw sugar. Brown sugar is not going to cut it. Regular sugar sort of cuts it. Raw sugar is pretty much where you want to be. And then you're going to want 6. You're basically going to want enough coffee to fill up your basket. So enough coffee to fill up your basket, which is pretty much about 6 tablespoons, give or take, depending on the size of your stovetop espresso maker. All right, so step number 1. Interestingly, we are heating up our stovetop espresso maker without the contents of the coffee inside of it. So split that puppy in half and put your water on the stove, let it heat up. That way you don't end up with bitter coffee. So it's not heating up the coffee at the same time it's heating up the water. Then you can start the brewing process once the water is ready to work on it. So we'll be right back. Just give us a couple minutes here while we get ourselves up to a boiling point. Meanwhile, I'm also going to set this puppy up with a packed puck. And again, that's a packed puck. Packed puck. So, and just pack it in. All right. So, of course, there's different ways to make a mocha pot. A lot of people like to just have their mocha pot overflowing. However, this is Cuban coffee, not, the coffee that you necessarily are used to making. And it's recommended when you're doing this that you do pack it in because you want it to be really strong. Really strong. Whenever you're making a mocha pot, though, make sure that the edges are cleared off, because if there's coffee on there, it will leak. And also don't overpack it, it's a fine line that you got to figure out. Because if you overpack it, then nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna clog up. All right, so we'll be right back. All right, so our coffee's boiling and it's rolling away. So we're ready to connect everything and start rolling along with it. Tip number 2 for when you're making Cuban coffee is leave your lid open, because what you actually want to do is catch the darkest extraction of the espresso and put that directly into your sugar so you can start mixing it up with that dark sauce. And I'll show you what happens then, because that's pretty much what creates the whole thing. So we'll be right back again. All right, so we've got a gurgle going. You can hear it communicating to us that it is ready. You can also see it, but you can't, and only I can, so. All right. So it's kind of tricky because you want it to create enough of the espresso that you can pour some of it in. Again, you're pouring a really, really minimal amount. Like, you'll be surprised how minimal it is. But you want it to be enough that it's not sticking to the bottom, that you can actually pour it down. So some people will take a spoon and they'll catch it as it's coming out of the mocha pot before it touches the bottom, which is a pretty good idea. All right, so this is kind of phase 2. Really minimal amount. Oh, maybe a little bit more. All right, I'm going to start. That's kind of ridiculously small. Okay. I'm going to start with that. And we're going to let our mocha pot continue to brew. Good tip is to keep your handle off the side of the stove. If you've ever cooked, you might already know that. If not, don't worry about it. Okay, so what we're doing now, pretty much we're creating a creamed sugar concoction. Gail has referred to it as like a peanut butter. It should look like peanut butter. If you are at home and you're making this and it looks more like molasses, the first time I tried it, that's how it turned out for me too. It's not really supposed to be that thin. But yeah, so you really have to vigorously mix it. Just put your arm strength into it. What arm strength do you have? I did push-ups last night, so I'm prepped. Vigorously mix it. Vigorously is the operative word, because you're going to be creating foam with this, and so it has to. I'm going to put more coffee in. All right, at the same time you're kind of keeping an eye on your coffee. There's only so much water in there, so it's not as though it's going to overflow. But you don't want it to burn either. So a good tip to know when it's done is it should make a different kind of gurgling sound. Kind of like that. You can always open it up and just check inside. It's spurting a little bit of coffee out. Okay, the reason this is so important, the reason you want to really mix your sugar with your espresso is that this is also going to be what creates the tasty level of foam that's going to form on top. If you end up with more of a molasses type creamed sugar than peanut butter, you probably won't get any foam, which again, I totally did that, so I understand. The struggle is real, but also worth it. The struggle is real and worth it, guys. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off. All right, so kind of peanut butter, kind of honey. honey peanut butter, delicious on bread. Has nothing to do with this coffee except that it looks like it. Pretty much then what you do is you just add in your coffee directly into your mixing cup. And if it turns out the way it's supposed to, it should form a nice thick layer of foam. Foamy foam foam. And you do kind of mix it up there because that's a lot of sugar. And you don't want it to stick to the bottom. Yeah, we actually got a really good amount of foam on there. I'm proud of us. Good job, guys. Yay. So, cafecito, cafe cubano. All right, so typically cafecito is served in demitas cups. Again, if you have a cigar, keep that handy. Pretty. Okay, so let's go in for the sip. Okay. Yeah. All right, well, it's delicious. Yep, it's really, 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 really good. If you like sugar, you're gonna like this coffee. As dads around the world have said, would you like some coffee with your sugar? And Cubans have always responded, maybe a little, but make sure it's strong. Because together, the super tough espresso mixed with the holy cow tons of sugar creates an interesting, delicious, holy, really good, lots of tasty, really good coffee. Balanced is what it is. Boy, that really makes me want to just take a trip to Cuba. If anybody has any connections, let me know, because I'd love to go there. All right. Well, thanks for coming along and joining me on this coffee collaboration creation. It's been a really good time. And so yeah, thanks again for joining us. If you liked this video, go ahead and click that like button. Communicate to us that. Sorry, it's a little for. If you liked this video, go ahead and click the like button. Communicate to us that you liked it. If you have any thoughts about the video, also communicate that to us via comments, because we love to hear you talk. And also subscribe so you can stay on the up and up with our coffee collaboration creations. And I hope you have a really great day. Thank you.